Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Education business meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. The time is now 5:34. With me this evening, I have Board of Ed members, Howard White, Ashley Bouillons, Kara Bakey, Jenny Randolph, Sharon Ricky Pritchett, Mary Ellen Flavey Ludwig, Jasmine Missy, and don't see anyone online at the moment. I do have Dr. Estrella and Mayor Henry Room, and also Dr. Estrella's cabinet. We could please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If anyone that wants to speak tonight, sheets to sign up for public comments over on this end. And anyone online that would like to speak this evening, if you could please raise your hands now. You have 5 minutes to sign up and to raise your hands. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. Before we start tonight's meeting, I'd like to take a moment to clarify some items of the budget process. This budget process has been ongoing since September, when the board held a public hearing to invite community input on priorities of the FY 25-26 budget. We followed that with 2 public town halls in October and November, which included small roundtable sessions where we engaged directly with families, staff, and community members. In December, the superintendent presented her recommended budget, which the board approved in January. Throughout this process, including board business meetings and budget workshops, public comment opportunities enabled us to hear more perspectives from the community. We truly appreciate everyone who has participated and shared in this input. The approved 4% budget increase was supported in large part because of strong community advocacy, especially at citywide meetings such as Finance and Claims Committee public hearings, the Board of Estimate and Taxation public hearings, and Common Council meetings. Your voices were heard, and we thank you for your support to provide adequate funding for our schools. Notices of these town halls, public hearings, and meetings were shared throughout the year using social media, newsletters, and school-based messages from principals. We want to thank everyone who helped spread the word and encourage participation in this important process. In addition, we provide regular updates on the MPS websites, and all relevant presentations are posted to board docs. The Finance Department also gives monthly updates during the board's Finance Committee meetings. Our school leaders play a critical role in this work. Early in the process, the Finance Department collected input from schools about their specific needs. When the city finalized the 4% increase, the finance team once again consulted with the principals to help identify potential reductions that would minimize impact on instruction. Their insight is essential and thoughtfully reviewed. Finally, when reductions affect staffing, please know that these are governed by union contracts, not by district leaders or by board decision. Contracts lay out clear procedures based on seniority and qualifications, not performance, and are available on the Human Resources page on MPS website. Also, we would like to let you know that union representatives did meet Dr. Estrella and her cabinet late this afternoon, as they were still having ongoing budget discussions. And thank you again for your continued involvement and advocacy. And next item on the agenda is public comment. Sharon.
I just wanted to.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to remind everyone when they come to public comments that we're going to be stating our name and address. Everyone has 3 minutes, and I just want to remind everybody in the public to please remain respectful to everyone. Thank you.
I think we have one quick.
The first person who has signed up to speak is Yesenia Paredes. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Good evening, everyone. Yesenia Paredes. 157 Marriott. My name is Yesenia Paredes, and I proudly serve as the principal at Supplemental Language School, Norwalk. And it is my great honor to speak first. When I first, I was, but I think it's great because what I want to speak about tonight, I think will probably set the tone for the only reason why we're all here, which is about kids. And if it's not about kids, it's about infant. Tonight I want to speak about a powerful transformation we've seen at Silverline, my school. Not by chance, but by true intentional collaboration, perfection, and commitment for our students. Through the implementation of cycles of support, coaching cycles, developing partnership with our district partners, and our dedicated school leadership team and our teachers, we've transformed the culture of teaching and learning in our building. And the same results I can say that have happened across schools in Norwalk with the support of coaches, leaders, and teachers as well. This work has empowered our teachers to make a shift in their practice, embrace feedback, and evaluate students' thinking. The redesigning of more rigorous language-rich lessons in spaces where students can have a voice in critical thinking is working, and it shows in our data as a district, specifically at my school. With my over 20 years in education, I've learned that when we keep students at the center of every decision, we move in the right direction. I may not fully understand who wants what or why we're facing such uncertainty. Still, I do know one thing. As a mother of 2 girls, one that just ended her first year as a law student, and one that just recently, 3 days ago, Friday, graduated from high school, I would want educators to be at the centers of all the decisions that are being made for my daughters. I didn't want teachers, principals, coaches, people that really understand what it is to learn and how children acquire language and the way in which students are expected to learn English. While I gratefully respect and trust the folks that are in public service that are supporting our schools and acquiring information to see what are the fundings that we are able to get. I stand firm when I say that the work that we're doing here at Norwalk Public Schools has transformed my school and is constantly transforming students. And I invite everyone to just look at the data, our graduation rates, our attendance rates, our students in the way that they are performing. I can only speak about my school, and when I first entered Silverline, not only were we the lowest performing school in the district, but we had a lot of work to do. And my teachers have done an amazing.
I'm sorry, Ms. Paredes, are you almost finished?
Almost done. My teachers have done an amazing job doing that work. So I ask everyone tonight to take a step back, center their visions, their feelings, their emotions around kids, so that we can continue with the work that we're doing so far in our students. Thank you.
We have some online comments.
Two people that got, the board, Alex and I'll.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Barely.
Turn it up.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And I just have a quick question. I had spoken to Mr. Valencinzi about my daughter and I had both signed up to speak. Are we both speaking now or are we speaking at separate times?
Yeah, they can each have three, they both signed up. We figured that we authenticated with them. There's no reason for them to sign in twice.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. So my daughter Eliza is speaking first. Speak loud.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Lindsay McCarthy and I live at 35 Foxton Road. I just graduated from Wolf Pit Integrated Arts and I care about the future of Wolf Pit. One of my favorite things about Wolf Pit is the music program, with theater, dance, music, strings, and band. I like them because I've always loved music and now I love dance too. Our music and dance teachers, Mr. Connor and Miss V, put on 2 music and dance shows that all the students in grades 3 and up participate in each year. Those shows are one of the highlights of my year. Without these 2 teachers, there will be no more music or dance classes, which will lead to no shows. Mr. Conway also has a select choir and is one of my favorite things to do. He started select choir this year, and he also started a talent show this year. Miss V and Miss Lockhart also helped with that. Our strings and band programs may also be at risk. I play viola and trumpet, and I've played them ever since they were offered in my grade. Playing both strings and band instrument has brought me a whole new world of understanding music to my life. I have learned so much, and other kids won't have that opportunity if these music programs are cut. This May, Ms. Shiros, our strings teacher, brought our 4th and 5th grade students to Carnegie Hall to play. There we played songs, but we also got to learn about many different instruments, and there were fun dances and performances on stage. We also got to meet the conductor in the green room. Our gym teacher, Mr. Armitage, is amazing at teaching us gym and getting us in good shape while making it fun with games that include running and throwing and catching. Mr. Santinello, our assistant principal, is so kind and he's always willing to help. If someone seems unhappy one day, he will come in and check on them. All of these teachers at risk of being fired are so amazing and are all part of the heartbeat of Wolf Pit. Wolf Pit will not be the same without these teachers. They are not just teachers, they are part of what makes Wolf Pit Wolf Pit. And I want other kids to have the experience of having these teachers because my time at Wolf Pit has been amazing.
May I speak now and start my 3 minutes? This is Alexis.
Finished?
Eliza finished. Yes, Lizzie finished. May I speak? It's Alexis.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Estrella and Mayor Rilling. My name is Alexis McCarthy. I live at 35 Fox Run as well. My children attend Wolf Pit Integrated Arts Elementary School. Recently, I asked you to please work collaboratively and creatively to preserve vital programming and positions. Sadly, at the time, the administration planned drastic cuts in these areas for the next year. Elementary schools across the district were slated to and could still lose band and strings. Proposed cuts would mean beloved Wolf Pit teachers and our assistant principal could lose their jobs. Our children love these professionals, and they're all trained in arts integration and hot schools methods and are vital to the arts integration magnet programming you established that is so amazing. Tonight, I continue urging you to preserve these positions. My children thrive in the arts at Wolf Pit, are happy to go to school each day with their teachers, and are enriched through specials and ensembles. They work hard and succeed. Many of us over the last few weeks have spoken out about the legacy of music, of our children playing at Carnegie Hall and with peers across Norwalk at the All-City Strings Festival each fall, among other triumphs. I've shared comments twice recently about the value of music and the arts, with early exposure providing a critical foundation for later excellence. So today, I will simply implore the board and the administration to preserve these vital programs and positions we've all been fighting for, from our amazing APs to the ensemble leaders who inspire our youth. Please share your detailed proposed budget publicly and be transparent. There's been a ton of back and forth these past few weeks, and new money coming in from the city and state, which is amazing. But do any of us in the parent community feel closer to what we need to know or feel reassurance that the new budget will preserve our important people and programs? We are hearing that many of these programs have been funded for the upcoming year, which is incredible, but we've not yet seen it. Looking forward, I implore you to please work with, not against, local and state leaders. We must collaborate with them in the budget process each year. We literally cannot afford to alienate them, and we can't afford more misplaced financial priorities, fiscal cliffs, or surprise funding gaps. We must plan proactively to ensure new programs function as going concerns, that when started, they have the funding to continue. Right now, financial mismanagement and the ensuing proposed cuts have placed our district in a crisis, and we can't offer a contract extension to someone who steered our district into a financial predicament and then chose to cut student-facing programs and professionals. We must pause administrative personnel choices and similar budget decisions until the student-facing programs and positions are restored, and our schools and students are prioritized once again in our budget. We ask you all to steer us back onto a course that builds our district's excellent programs, retains our great teachers, and returns us to collaboration with city and state leaders. And we ask you to reprioritize our children, who should be at the heart and forefront of every choice the superintendent and this board make. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Taylor De Silva and I am speaking on behalf of a letter sent in to Brian Acevedo, Norwalk Public Schools employee and Norwalk resident. Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Estrella, community leaders, fellow educators, and concerned citizens. My name is Brian Acevedo and I am not just an employee of Norwalk Public Schools, but a Norwalk resident and a living testament to the power of second chances, mentorship, and believing in students who are often overlooked. You see, I once sat in classrooms as a struggling high school student, unmotivated, uncertain, and dangerously close to failing through the cracks. What I needed was someone to see beyond the surface, to understand the barriers I was facing, and to guide me toward the version of myself that I didn't yet believe existed. Fast forward to today, I now work at Brian McMahon High School, supporting students whose stories reflect my own. I track and target chronic absenteeism. I check in with those students who show signs of slipping because I know what that path can lead to. And more importantly, I know it can be redirected. But none of this would be possible for me if it weren't for Dr. Alexandra Estrella. Dr. Estrella doesn't just believe in systems, she believes in people. She believes in all of us. She brought attention to the students who were being left behind and fought to make sure our schools didn't just serve the highest achievers, but all students. Her leadership has helped build frameworks that support both academic growth and human connection. I've seen firsthand how her leadership has translated into better engagement, deeper intervention strategies, and a renewed focus on equity. And when someone like Dr. Estrella leads with both intellect and heart, she doesn't just change schools, she changes lives, and mine is one. We cannot afford to silence the voices that advocate for the voiceless. We cannot dismantle the bridges that have only just begun to carry our students forward. Please consider extending Dr. Estrella's contract. Thank you, Brian Acevedo.
Thank you.
Next, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. No, I'm sorry.
Lady Chetta, 14 Old Road. I would like to address the Norwalk community. I want to express my deep respect to each of you who have spoken up and stood firm in support of what you believe is right. Thank you for showing up for our students, for our children, and for advocating for what you feel is in their best interest. Now, to Dr. Alexandra Estrella. And I want everyone here to know that my comments are based on direct experiences and facts that I have personally witnessed. Dr. Estrella, thank you. Thank you for your thoughtful initiatives. You have contributed that have brought joy to our students. That impact is what matters most in my opinion. I'll give you all 2 examples. Say yes to the dress. Gave nearly 400 juniors and seniors, regardless of race, background, or economic status, the chance to receive formal attire for their prom. In my estimation, that means so much as a village. The creation of a centralized space where anyone in need can safely seek support is, in my view, one of your most impactful contributions. The fact that other districts like Stanford and Denver are now adopting similar models speaks volumes about the value of this idea. They wouldn't be doing it if the facts and numbers were not addressed. To the Board of Education, now that all conditions set forth by Senator Duff and Mayor Rillian have been agreed upon, I urge you to also consider the many initiatives that tangible accomplishments achieved under Estrella's leadership. Several of you have participated in and expressed appreciation to this initiative, especially as you have witnessed the joy it brings to our students. Yes, listen to the voices of the Norwalk community, of course, but also make your decision based on concrete facts and outcomes. I respectfully ask that you give the current superintendent another opportunity to continue the work she has done and to keep demonstrating that her top priority is and always has been the well-being of her.
Yes, non-black.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Juana Rodriguez, 1 Park Street. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you, Dr. Estrella, for your dedication and vision. Dr. Estrella has worked hard to bring families together to meaningful events that support both learning community and connection. And community connection. One great example of the three Spanish and English classes. She helped language after just one request. In a short period of time, a teacher, books, and materials were written. And now a lot of people are participating. She has also led events like the Halloween drive, where the kids received candy bags and took photos with staff in custom. An opportunity for students to be safe during Halloween. They didn't allow that. A beautiful event. Where over 200 children received books, Christmas gifts, connected with the help of school social workers and guidance counselors. I am a witness of the wonderful smiles on children's faces. And now, and how grateful they were. Dr. Estrella opened a community pantry in collaboration with Mutual Aid to help meet the basic needs of families across the district. This effort showed Dr. Estrella's deep commitment to serving the whole child and supporting the families in our school. Thank you again, Dr. Estrella. And to the Board of Education, I ask to give Dr. Estrella the opportunity to continue this important work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Casey Bergen, Norwalk Public Schools, 125 East South. Good evening, esteemed board members, superintendents, staff, and Mayor Rillian. My name is Casey Bergen, and I proudly serve Norwalk Public Schools as the Education Administrator for Curricular and Professional Learning. After 31 years in education, I've come to understand something profoundly. Serving others, especially in public education, is often one of the most selfless and underappreciated roles we can choose. There are moments when we ask ourselves, why do we continue? Why do we pour so much of ourselves into this work? And then I step into classrooms. I witness the spark of discovery when a student embraces a new idea. I hear their giggles, I see their smiles, and yes, sometimes I see their tears. And in those moments, those raw, beautiful moments, I remember exactly why we do this work. That is what must guide us. That is what must remain at the center of every decision that we make today and as we move forward. Tonight, I urge you, do not lose sight of that. Do not allow the noise to be your compass. That is not where the true north lies. Instead, remember what we have built together. Norwalk Public Schools adopted a literacy curriculum grounded in the science of reading 2 years before it became state mandated. We transformed our MTSS program to better serve all students. MTS leads the entire state of Connecticut in the number of students identified for gifted talents programs. We delivered the only social studies curriculum in the state of Connecticut that provides inquiry-based learning opportunities for all students K through 8. A distinction so exceptional, 2 of our educators were invited to lead this work at the state level. And they've seen real measurable progress. Increases in SAT scores, SAT, GLOSSARY, and accountability scores. Growth in the number of students identified as gifted and talented, rising graduation rates for all students. At the same time, we've seen meaningful reductions. Fewer students chronically absent, fewer suspensions, fewer students in outplacements, fewer students requiring summer academy. This is not accidental. This is the result of bold leadership. This is the result of a superintendent who is fiercely committed to educational equity. Superintendent State has never wavered. Schools have the power to keep lives, and that no child should ever be denied their dreams because of barriers we have the power to remove. I believe in her. I believe in this work, and I ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Reminder.
I want to remind everyone
To be respectful,
Please.
please,
Like to say.
please, thank you. I appreciate it. Good evening. My name is Francis Sines, and I serve as the Education Administrator for Connecticut. Thank you, Dr. Estrella, and all members for the opportunity to speak. In Norwalk, and across the state, superintendent of the scapegoat for financial crisis fees so common. Where was the support when Norwalk Public Schools asked for help? It wasn't until a lot of parents raised their voices that real action was taken. Why did it take public outreach for the system to respond to what we have been transparently communicating for years? Let's have a look at Norwalk history for superintendents. Susan Marks left in 2012 after just 3 years of service due to budget tensions and planning. Manuel Rivera resigned in 2015 after 2 years of service, citing personal reasons, though everyone knows it was true. Dr. Adamowski retired in 2020. He stated that Norwalk had no mobile system benefiting adults more than students. That still rings true today. We clearly are not doing well in retaining our superintendents. Under Dr. Estrella's leadership, here is what we have achieved in terms of graduation. Graduation rate rose from 85.6% in 2020 to 92.6% today. For multilingual learners, 62% to 79.3%. Black students, 80.8% to 95.4%. Hispanic students, 83% to 90.3%. White students, 92.6% to 95.1%. In language acquisition, we are celebrating our growth. Lastly, the assessment on language proficiency increased from 128 students last year to 224 students this year, almost double from last year. Norwalk has surpassed the state average in both oral and literacy component on the last year, We are now ranking number 2 among large urban districts that we are compared to. College enrollment is also up. NPS for 2020, we had a total of 553 scholars enrolled, a 65.8%. In 2024, 711,000 enrollments, a 75.5%. These are more than just statistics. These are the lives of NPS scholars. If these numbers hold, when the state official publishes it, that would be the highest college attendance rate for NPS students in the last decade. These gains reflect on Dr. Estrada's vision and mission of recognizing that all students have the potential to learn and succeed. Something good. It's a district-wide system that is built on equity, quality, education, and accountable for all. And yes, this is a product of the work of our heart teachers. Collaborating with the community is important and necessary, but it should not dictate how she performs her role as superintendent. Ultimately, the responsibility and accountability for the district direction rests with the superintendent. That's why I respectfully request that the board allow Dr. Estrada to continue leading this district, and I urge you to base that decision on data and outcomes, not politics. Thank you. Next, item, Mitch. Thank you.
So we might have an opportunity to be heard. You may disagree with your opinion, but it's an opinion that they have. So please, we're just asking you once again, please allow people to talk without interruption, and then anybody else who wishes to talk certainly has the opportunity.
Good afternoon, as board members, Superintendent Dr. Estrada, Mayor Riley, families, students, teachers, staff, administrators, and guests. My name is Heidi Kirby. My address is 125 East.
Please. If we continue, we're gonna end the meeting. If this continues, we're gonna end the meeting. We listened, excuse me, we listened to everyone for 4.5 hours last week. You can listen. And we respect.
I'll share how leadership practices at MPS are relevant to such that under Dr. Estrada's leadership. MPS has implemented systems that empower staff and elevate student success. She values all stakeholders' voices as evident in the creation of the strategic plan and the portrait of family, taking input from families, students, and staff. The strategic plan guides MPS with 5 strategic priorities: future readiness, equity, excellence, engagement, and high quality instruction and support. This year, the portrait of a graduate adds effective communicators to critical thinking. To help students be college and career ready by graduating from high school, Dr. Estrada launched Future Ready program. Since 2022, the district's graduation rate has steadily increased. In 2024, the graduation rate reached 90.6%, surpassing the state's at 88.9%. And without the future ready graduates, NPS would be 88.9, tied with the state. Dr. Estrella believes every student deserves success and works to remove obstacles in their way. To provide students voice and voice, schools showcase their unique programs with families, including International Baccalaureate, STEAM, Marine Science, Magnets, Dual Language, Early College, and Integrated Art, helping families finding the right fit. Dr. Estrella created a system of instructional and leadership professional learning for principals, assistant principals, and coaches. So they all receive the same message and professional learning to bring to their school. Dr. Estrella created a leadership pipeline where 2 veteran principals be learning and mentor new and aspiring leaders, helping NPS grow from within. These structures are delivering impactful results. In the last year, James Crush at Nathan Hale Middle School won the outstanding first year principal for 2024. LaShante James of Bryan Command High School achieved the 2025 Assistant Principal of the Year. Dr. Dana Lewis, Principal of Holmesbridge STEAM School, earned the Principal of the Year for Connecticut and now is one of 3 national finalists. These award-winning leaders grew their instructional and leadership skills in NPS thanks to Dr. Estrella. Let's give these out.
Yes, Melissa Ayala. Be respectful. If you were here last week and you had an opportunity to speak uninterrupted, let's let everybody else understand. And let's show children how we should be conducting ourselves as well. No, we were talking about all teachers, we talked, we've been emailed, we've been called, we've been texted. You guys have all been very vocal about staff. These are staff that are really hard. They are right to see all the stuff that you do.
Excuse me. Madam Chair, I want to note that we had about half speakers last week who never gave an address and were about to speak uninterrupted. I'd also like to make a motion. I could make a motion, I'd like one of my colleagues to second it. My motion is that any speakers in the crowd from here on out, we will get in public comment and speech. Is there a second?
I'm honorable. And I'm here, I have 20 years working for Norwalk. That I'm very proud of because I love the kids. And I'm also, I have a story with me. I don't want to talk only about myself. I want to talk about my life. And you are part of my life, okay? I have 20, my name is Marisa Ayala, I just say, I live in 20 and Martin Luther King Union Drive. I'm also a parent, and I also work with kids and parents. And my last day will be June 30th, after 20 years. So I not only help kids, but I found out that I was 2 years teaching, and I found out that I can do something else with parents. So parenting, and also some of them is I have to call in the morning. I said, hello, and can you send me school? They say, so and so happened, So I try to my best to reach out and help those parents. Not only I help them with that, also in technology. Right now, we have 120 kids that go into summer school. So I have to call them and say, do you need help? Because everything is electronic. And a lot of you know that technology people, we have a lot of parents, they don't know anything about technology. So I was on the phone, 120 parents, took me 2 days and a half to help them. So in my point of view, I not only see the kids, I love the kids, and not only I lost my job this year, I lost my own son last year. So when I was working at school, the kids was my process, my dedication, because they give me love. The love that I got for myself, I gave it to more kids. Okay, I work in all the schools, and I love everybody. Doesn't matter where you come from, but doesn't matter what language you speak, I'll be there for you. I can speak Spanish, English, and French. I put it with Creole, and I help the parents. So I'm glad that I have 20 years working for Norwalk Public Schools. I'm very proud. And doesn't matter what's coming down to us, we have to stand up, grow as the parents, and go forward. That's it.
Thank you.
Daisy Cordell, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Hi, how are you? Mi nome es Yasmina Rivera. Which they came to church. Okay. My English no es very good. Okay. Preferible the translator people of Mr. Carter.
Hablar en español.
Sí, no hay problema. Buenas noches, I'm sorry, no me expliqué. Hablo de inglés, ok? Sorry, no problem. Ok, primero que todo, lamento mucho que se estén dando todas estas situaciones. Mi corazón está un poquito roto porque amo esta comunidad desde que llegué. Y las personas que me conocen saben que he trabajado arduamente tanto para la comunidad americana como para la comunidad latina. Y mi corazón está hoy con usted, doctora Estrella, porque yo sé cuánto usted ha trabajado por los estudiantes. He trabajado de la mano con usted, sé la preocupación que usted tiene por la igualdad y sobre todo por resaltar la comunidad latina que si esto está vacío, no es porque no la queremos apoyar. Usted sabe muy bien el miedo que haya muchos amigos de venir aquí a hablar con usted y de todo el trabajo maravilloso que usted está realizando. Me duele mucho que todo esto esté pasando, pero quiero que sepan que no solamente cuenta con mi voz. Esta tarde muchos padres me decían, tenemos miedo de venir a hablar, hay verdad, hay miedo, pero el corazón de ellos está con usted. Yo agradezco enormemente porque usted me ha dado la oportunidad de trabajar de la mano con usted con los estudiantes. Hemos trabajado de la mano con las conferencias estudiantiles. Hemos abierto las puertas para la comunidad latina, que de esta manera pues está siendo un poco opacada en este país. Gracias sinceramente y espero que todo esto se logre solucionar, no solamente por el bien de la comunidad de los estudiantes, sino también por el bien de todos ustedes. Este país es maravilloso, abrió las puertas a tanta comunidad latina. Usted es la representación digna de la gente que necesitamos seguir teniendo. Mi corazón está con usted y con todos ustedes y con todo el público que está presente, porque a veces las cosas no se dan de una manera positiva de uno o de otro lado, pero lo que estoy segura es que tenemos que todos encaminarnos por el bien de nuestra comunidad, que es una comunidad maravillosa. Así que lamento mucho, estoy con ustedes y estoy con todos también. Que Dios los bendiga.
Yes, Senator.
because of my decided to get rid of the strength and band from Norwalk Elementary School. I was also here at the meeting 2 weeks ago. I was too sad and upset to sleep. All I could think of was possibly not having my absolute favorite music teacher, Miss Russian, at my school next year. I've had music with Miss Russian since kindergarten and was looking forward to having her next year at CMS. But now the song might have changed. That makes me very sad. Last school year, in third grade, I had games where I learned to play the viola and I loved it. I found out that I really like playing instruments. This year, I joined band and my band teacher, Mrs. Pacino, taught me to play the clarinet. I love playing together with my friends at our concert a couple weeks ago. I really don't want you to get rid of the band change. I'm also speaking for all the kids third grade and under. None of them will get a chance to learn an instrument in elementary school. My older brother Leon got to play viola for 3 years at Connecticut. He was already really good at it when he got to middle school and played solo in 7th grade and college. I will miss a whole year of instrument playing if you take this all away. This does not make me happy. Last week I went to my brother's middle school promotion where I had the West Rocks band, and they were amazing. What's going to become of the middle school band if you don't have a band in 4th and 5th grade? They're never going to sound that good. I'm here tonight because I want to play not only for me, but for all the children of Norwalk who deserve to have an amazing music teachers and band strings in elementary school.
Hey everyone, my name is Sarah Vito, I live at 90 Newtown Avenue. First, I just want to be clear, and I think this is a huge issue with the board and superintendent, is that information is not disseminated to the public in an easy to understand format. So people still think it's about the debate, it's not, it's off the table right now, so just a heads up, I'll help you guys out. Anyway, so I'm here tonight not just as a parent, but as someone who is deeply frustrated by the lack of transparency and clarity that continues to define this budget process. Let's be honest, this community has been forced to navigate chaos. Cuts were announced, programs were slashed, educators left in limbo, and now as funds are being restored, we're still not being given a timely, clear explanation of how these decisions are being made. Over the last 4 years, we've seen significant increases in central office and administrative roles. For example, the number of central admin chairs has nearly doubled from approximately 18 people to 33. I also personally want to understand why non-student facing coaches have almost doubled, going from about 53 people to 127. While I absolutely recognize the need for strong leadership, oversight, and coaches, I have to ask, why has there been such an unchecked growth in these areas, especially when student facing roles are being cut? Couldn't some of these administrative and coaching responsibilities be consolidated to reduce overhead and preserve the positions that have the most direct impact on our kids' day-to-day education? Parents, students, and educators deserve transparency and thoughtful justification for these choices. We have been told that tough decisions are necessary, but we also need to know these decisions are being made with fairness and clarity. At a time when every dollar counts, let's make sure we're protecting the classrooms, not just the conference rooms. So I'm asking you directly, what concrete steps will be taken to ensure this kind of last minute behind closed door process never happens again? This isn't just an administrative issue, it's a breach of trust. Families, teachers, principals, and staff are left guessing, scrambling, and picking up pieces. We truly deserve better. Our kids deserve better. This board must commit to a budgeting process that is transparent so the public can easily follow and trust the decisions being made. Equitable, so no school is left behind or disproportionately impacted. Rooted in true partnership with the community, because this isn't just your district, it's ours too. We are watching, we are speaking up, and we will keep demanding answers until this process reflects the values of our children. Thank you guys for your time.
Andrea, Ms. Lesko? If
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Estrella, educators and community partners. My name is Lina Ane So Lesko, and I am a longtime resident of Norwalk. As a first-generation Latina and Asian American, I carry the stories of resilience and struggle from two rich cultures, where education is not just a privilege, but a sacred path, opportunity, and survival. Like many in our community, I have seen how education can either build bridges or create walls. Tonight, I stand here demanding that our children and Norwalk are given nothing less than fair, transparent, and just access to the resources they deserve. Let me be clear. Vague promises and opaque processes are unacceptable. This is not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about our children's future and the very fabric of our community. I respectfully but firmly insist the board answer these critical questions without delay. What clear criteria justify our distribution of the recently restored funds? Why are some schools still left with cuts disproportionate to their needs, undermining equity? What concrete long-term safeguards are being established to avoid this chaotic last-minute decision-making that erodes trust? And why is the budget vote scheduled without first providing the public a full and transparent proposal to review? This lack of openness isn't just frustrating, it's a betrayal. It fractures the trust of families, teachers, principals, and support staff who all deserve to know how and why these life-impacting decisions are made. Moving forward, the board will commit to a budgeting process grounded in equity, accountability, and genuine partnership with the Norwalk community. I call for honesty because without truth, trust crumbles. And without trust, there is no unity, no progress, and no future worth fighting for. Thank you for your time. I expect that moving forward, our voices will not only be heard, but acted upon.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Lynn Moore, I reside at 813 Fox Drive in Norwalk. I'm speaking on behalf of the BOE Coalition of Communities and introducing something from the President's here. For the community and the BOE, there are still more positions that could be cut in central office. As the unions, we asked the superintendent to cut 2 persons in her cabinet, which would probably amount to more than $550,000. We made recommendations that other unaffiliated positions be cut, such as in the communications department. If the superintendent would do that, Kelly Martin would be restored to her weight. We made admitted to the superintendent that those 3 new special ed positions upon which you are to vote tonight, BOE, be eliminated, and the 7 special ed positions with the superintendent which she cut be restored. We need special ed administrators in the schools and not in central office. And performing arts positions to be restored. But we believe more time is needed to continue discussion with the superintendent to evaluate how to avoid so many bumps that will occur and the many jobs that will be lost. And unless the superintendent makes additional cuts, which it appears that she is unwilling to do so, then this budget is not ready for a BOE vote tonight. Thank you.
Everybody thinks they're that, I want you to have children, the Norwalk Public School system. And just a lot of meetings up there, up the boot off the stage tonight. But first off, I'd like to suggest that Board of Ed think of me. Alright, not that, but you guys are not engaged. No, really, just I'm here tonight, basically, to say that I really appreciate talking to all of what Mrs. Niscani from Silvermine said as far as the kids who are all here. And I think despite all our differences, what the silver lining of all this sort of horrific hot mess that this whole budget discussion has been is seeing that I think at the end of the day, we all are very passionate about our children and their education. I don't think any of us want to see any teachers cut. I think that a lot of people spoke about some of the successes at the schools, and as a parent of 3 children, but I love them more than anything, and as well as other friends, I've been very, very focused on the trajectory of the schools. And at Fox Run, we have Mr. Montero, who's a fabulous leader, and I've seen the teachers thrive out of that. And the same thing at Bonus. We have Dr. Lewis, who's up for the goal of the year. Lewis is a joke. I don't think he's a joke, but I wasn't a fan of him at first, actually, to be honest with you. My son was went there as missions. He's won me over. He's very passionate about the kids, and he seems like a tried and true gentleman. So I'm sorry that you feel that children's principal is a joke, but these are people that I appreciate deeply, and my children thrive that environment. I appreciate seeing you, Mr. Mayor, and some of you Board of Ed members, as well as Central Office members at my son's graduation from Queens Middle School, and that we wrote to me, and it was kind of long, but you guys stuck it out, and I appreciate that. And so basically, I'm just coming here to say, the more we work together, the more our kids benefit, and I think that's what should be, on the forefront of our minds as our children. Obviously, we see nationwide, townwide, as not always, everyone doesn't see things from the same perspective. The more we're willing to work together and realize that everything's not black and white, and we don't have all the answers, then I think we can make progress. And I think our town has shown us with our history, like others have spoken about, we don't have the greatest track record of that cohesiveness between all the different parts that play a role in getting the school budget approved. But hopefully we will not lose any more teachers who give their heart and soul. I was telling Mrs. Montero when she walked in and said hi, and she thanked me for being here, that my youngest son, Jack, who's 7, about to turn 8, just finished 2nd grade, came home and said, Dad, I missed Mrs. C already. And this kid's a little rough around the edges, but Mrs. Alexander Casavola made a huge impact on his life, and he's thriving, right? And he has a pretty good home life, but he missed his teacher.
Thank you, Mr. Susan. I'd love to hear what you're saying. Cut you off.
Sorry, I was not getting put off this time yet. Thank you.
Yeah, Jason, everyone.
Sorry for the long shot. Good evening, board, as well as parents, educators, and students in the Norwalk Public School System. My name is Jason Simler. I live at 19 Deerwood Manor. I don't understand why some folks are allowed to speak and provide advocacy to individuals while hiding behind a veil of state differences. And actually, I want to continue to voice my frustrations regarding several issues that comes out and mounting trust issues that continue to surround this. First off, we're all here tonight regarding the reconciled budget and reportedly having to vote on it with the addition of $6 million of additional funding from the city and state. However, as of 5 p.m. today, that document had not been made public. And as of now, I can only comment from the previous budget. How can the public properly voice their opinions on this budget if we cannot see it or if that time to process? The vote should not move forward without ample time for public review. Additionally, while several media statements have been made by the superintendent about her cabinet and her lack of a raise this coming year, currently available reconciliation continues to show over 912%. Additionally, tonight we are supposed to be voting on 5 new central office positions totaling around $1 million this year. I thought that we were looking to cut central office roles and not provide new titles for you with your salary. While I applaud the board for finally addressing the needs of the school, student-facing roles and programs, I'm deeply concerned about the eroded trust and accountability. This is including a change to the board documents by someone who still yet to be named. Too much of this trust has been lost, and while we all believe that there needed to be a vote on the extension of the superintendent's contract tonight, we remain asking for the agenda. I hope that you all know that our community needs new leadership and new vision to help us rebuild and move forward. I hope that whenever the vote comes to the floor, let's know and we begin the journey of finding new leadership and a direction. Finally, it seems that as a public, we have learned one thing through this whole process, that we must remain vigilant and committed to a vocal and strong advocacy for community needs. We're no longer able to wholly trust some of those elected to advocate on our children's behalf.
Good evening, my name is Nadine Francis and I live at 265 Sunrise Hill Road. I am a parent of 3 children at Norwalk Schools, one at Tracy, one at West Robinson, one at Norwalk High this fall. I'm also an active member of multiple PTAs, the West Rapid SGT and the Norwalk PTOC. I want to start by saying that this entire budget process has felt like emotional whiplash for so many of us. And while I am incredibly grateful and happy to know that most of our concerns are being addressed in music programs, one of the things that we have not addressed is that the transparency, the clarity, and a voice in the process that we have asked for so many times as parents. And while it took nearly 1,000 people showing up to the last board meeting for voices to finally be heard, that call for transparency still hasn't truly been honored. Sometimes what we heard, I was at the January SGC meeting where the district shared potential cuts that could happen if it wasn't fully funded. A parent specifically stood up and asked for us to be part of the decision-making process to see what our options were before you made the cuts, before we were asked to to advocate for more funds from the city. We were met with a vague response, uncertain if we'd actually be included. Over the last several months, many of us have worked with our SGCs. We have given our input. We believe that our principals could advocate for what our school communities needed. But in May, at the SGC co-chair meeting, we learned some schools have been asked to remove things like bands and strings, so it would be fair across the district and elementary school. That doesn't feel like shared decision making. That felt like a decision had already been made for us. And then in June, without any communication, we heard that our general music teachers were being cut. As someone who's been involved all year long, I felt blindsided. Back in January, we were shown slides where it showed a possible $47,000 reduction in music and sports programs. Nowhere did it say an entire pillar of elementary education would be gutted. This isn't about parents not understanding the process or needing more charts and graphs to explain it. We're capable of understanding complex decisions, but only if we're given the full story. Transparency means laying out all the and letting parents have a real say before the decision is made. Even now, as we celebrate the possible return of our music programs, we're still confused. Last Friday, our principals were told they could determine which positions to reinstate with input from their parent leadership groups, but they weren't given enough time to reach out to their parent leadership. On another note, about another special meeting being added for tomorrow with the right and balanced budget vote on that agenda too. Reach out to the board members to get clarification on why that vote appeared on both agendas. Why was there no public explanation of that? How is this providing the transparency and clarity you said is a priority? The truth is, it's not. Public trust doesn't just come from fixing the final result. It comes from the way you include people in the process. So yes, there were the fans and strength and strength are all being reinstated. But transparency still hasn't made its way back into this room. And we're not gonna stop asking for it. We're gonna continue to show up and we're gonna keep demanding it. What is it?
My name is Carly Lucy. I live at 136 Gillies Lane, and my son is a rising seventh grader at Concord Magnet School. I am here tonight to voice my deep disappointment in what has happened over the past few weeks, and to advocate again for our teachers and staff who've been discouraged from speaking up for themselves. The way that has played out over the last couple of weeks has been unconscionable and truly cruel to our educators and our kids. Let's not forget that for all of the statistics, the wonderful statistics read in support of Dr. Estrella tonight, whose faces that came from, who made those things happen, that was not and you're celebrating a successful year or thinking ahead to the next year, those who are in danger of losing their jobs spent the end of school grieving, wondering if they were saying a final goodbye to their beloved students. Meanwhile, this dramatic volley between politicians, school leadership, and the Board of Education played out publicly. It's disheartening at best and infuriating at worst. I recognize that you on the Board of Education are volunteers, that you have a really difficult job. And I recognize that there's political agendas happening in the city that I have no idea about. However, as a parent, there seems to be no reliable way to tease apart fact from opinion or reality from political rhetoric. There is a huge disconnect between leadership and stakeholders in our city. So I'm asking you again tonight that our student-facing positions, especially music and mental health, be fully restored, of course. But also, I would echo other requests for increased transparency, and most importantly, integrity from leadership going forward. We have to be able to do better than this. Please put our teachers and our students first. They are the ones who dictate this success.
My name is Deanna Hansen. I live at 10 Wilmer and I'm a parent of a elementary school student. Blame for this year's budget fiasco is spread across you, the city and the state officials. Dr. Estrella and the BOE played important roles in the chaos. Why I'm here advocating for change in leadership. First, either Dr. Estrella failed to provide the BOE or the BOE failed to post the fiscal 2026 operating budget to the agenda 24 hours. Or at all, before this meeting in accordance with their own rules. The same budget the BOE is supposed to vote on tonight and apparently tomorrow, as well as the same one that the public is supposed to have a chance to review, so we can provide meaningful public comment. Dr. Estrella, as your contract states, you are the Chief Executive Officer. As the CEO, the buck stops with you.
Yeah.
Part of the chaos of the last 2 weeks was a lack of transparent communication when it came to accepting the additional $60 million in funds being offered. In large part due to the pressure that we all provided. When Dr. Estrella was nothing more than the BOE, was a conflicting statement on the NPS website from the one that was unanimously signed, created an opportunity for Senator Duff to pull funds, whether it's spent or not, it was out there. Dr. Estrella on 6/5, you stated, quote,
We are consistently collaborating and having conversations to provide productive ways which to find additional resources, unquote. It did not appear any outside conversations were being had, as Senator Duff, Mayor Rilling, and some BOE members seemed surprised by the official statement posted on the website. This demonstrates an overall inability to effectively communicate. It took the BOE 24 hours to put out a statement on the reason for the discrepancy. This is contributing to our continued distrust in this board. Dr. Estrella seems to you making poor decisions as the exclusive person with the authority to hire, terminate, and assign personnel. Only when pressured, we were able to find $2 million in savings by eliminating some non-student facing positions. Where was this ingenuity and foresight during the original budget discussion? Then that should be when speaking about the financial challenges facing MPS and 6.5, you pointed to rising internal costs, inflation, and unfunded state mandates. As someone with family and friends in primary education throughout the state, I know you are not the only superintendent in this state working with a budget deficit and same economy. So I ask you, then why are you the only superintendent in Connecticut who faced 700 parents speaking for 4+ hours, received countless emails demanding accountability, and have over 1,200 people sign a petition to have you removed? The answer is the BOE in November this year and in 2027, I will be seeking new people who can effectively fight for our children. Dr. Estrella, your lack of competent leadership is why I'm demanding no extension of your contract. I do not want to be working in my school district for 10 years, be entitled to my tax dollars to fund your pension. And I would not support it if we didn't try on. Why is it happening here?
Good evening, I'm Mike Youngs. I'm here tonight to echo a point that many other parents have made, that one of the key issues that was brought up in the last meeting is the desire for the Board of Education to have greater transparency with the public and allow for reasonable public oversight. This is essentially agreed to with the subsequent funding from the state, and the city was accepted, but it is not being met at this time and continues to erode the trust of myself and many other Norwalk parents. In fact, when you look at the way this whole meeting was put together, it makes you wonder. A new meeting scheduled at 5:30 looks like an obvious attempt to keep busy parents. Obviously, this time is a little bit more of a meeting for the supporters and the Board of Education is not necessarily. In BOE Rule 9008, constructed and posting of an agenda, it states in Section 2, Part A, that at least 24 hours prior to the time of regular or special communication, an agenda will be constructed and posted by the superintendent of schools for the board. It goes on to clearly state in Part B that said agenda will, quote, be posted on Town Hall, the Board of Administrative Offices, and on the board's internet website. Any associated documents that may be reviewed by members of the board at such meetings shall be posted on the board's internet website, provided such documents are not exempt from disclosure under FOIA. Please note the clear portion that any associated documents that may be reviewed by members of the board at such a meeting shall be posted on the board's internet website. I believe that the board has clearly violated its own rules, having only posted this budget within minutes of this meeting starting. I believe that this shows further that the board is making an honest attempt to silence the parent of Norwalk, and I hope that you all have a plan to follow your rules. Unless the board has no intention of reviewing the budget proposal before voting on it, instead planning on continuing to act as a rubber stamp. They should have no choice but to delay this vote and immediately reschedule another vote on this matter. A petition is currently circulating with over 1,200 signatures from local parents voting no confidence in Dr. Estrella and calling for her resignation. Let me be clear, you will find my name on it.
That there is not enough of our children being second, and that we do not trust in current administration. Mr. Hosteen, Mr. Beatty, Ms. Beatty, Ms. Randolph, and Mr. Creedy Pritchett, please know that we are all aware that your students will be on the ballot this November. Please work to regain public trust by keeping your word and allowing for reasonable public oversight of the BOE, and by posting all proposed documents to the BOE website. And do not schedule a meeting or a vote for at least 24 hours to allow for public review and actual informed public comment.
Thank you. Morning, leader. Eric? Eric Meader as well? Christina Patterson?
Gloria Niebuhr, 36 Penn Road. Good evening, everyone. I want to first thank the board for the time you give to this position, and I know you all care and want to do the right thing. What do I think is important? Relationships. And I hope union reps are listening to what I'm about to say. And I also know that what I'm about to say is dictated by contracts, but I think we need to do better for our kids in this area. We need to value relationships because they matter more than we could ever know. Between staff and students and staff to staff. People that work in school buildings, they become a second family to our kids and to each other. I'm grateful student-facing positions are a priority, but we need to discuss what is considered student-facing positions. Apparently, dean of students and assistant principal positions are not considered student-facing, and people with little to no experience in NPS classrooms are bumping our current deans and APs because of seniority. These school-based admins see our children every day. They help them through tough times, high-five them in the halls, or give a hug when they need it. And when things get rough, they know how to talk to and discipline our kids because they've been in the classrooms and schools with our kids for years. People like Ashley Blow at Honus, Brian Rivera at Brookside, who are both being gripped and demoted with significant pay cuts. And Chris Olson from Cranberry, we will lose altogether. Devastating, guys. This guy is truly the best educator I've ever done. These three educators who have been in Norwalk Public Schools for years have a level of talent and care that any other district would love. My children have been positively impacted by these people in such a way that I sent them to school knowing they were getting the best of the best. Now we need to use them all, replaced by people who haven't been in a Norwalk classroom ever with little classroom experience because of contract stipulations. I'm sorry, I know this is a job, but a priority should be keeping positive relationships with the school communities intact. It would only help the students achieve more if we maintain the relationships they have made. You can't forget, education is not about reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's also learning how to be a good neighbor, friend, and sounding board. And people like Ashley, Brian, and Chris are excellent examples for our kids to follow. If you really care about human connection, these people wouldn't be cut or ripped. Prioritize what happened in the school buildings during school hours rather than central office. As it relates to changes in the contract negotiations with Dr. Estrella, the BOE leadership and whoever was in conference with the leadership acted unilaterally without conference with all members. They got a statement with all the board of ed members signing off and then changing it after the fact without everyone's approval, and that's per Mr. Hostin's account. It's inappropriate. You are responsible for full communication and collaboration. Anything less can foster mistrust and lack of confidence. And I'm going to say, I mentioned that people that have spoken tonight in support of Dr. Estrella don't fear retribution, and I say that with respect.
Ms. Beatty, your time is up. Thank you.
And can I just say one thing? I was here with you, maybe so we can have a true representation of what's going on. I've heard it behind closed doors for years. I hope we'll try to find out from all the staff what they think without fear. Until then, this tension will continue and needs to be fixed. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Meader, 36 Patton Road. Spoken a couple of times. I just want to try to reinforce transparency, accountability, communication, and collaboration. I try to look at silver linings, right? So we just had a recent pretty public controversy between the superintendent, the board of ed, the mayor, Senator, State Senator Duff, Senator Majority Leader. The silver lining. So I've been advocating for TAC for years, over a decade, right? So with silver linings, looking at positivity, looking at improvements, regardless of the lawyers, and I understand the law, I'm a lawyer, I get it, but you can use this opportunity to increase public trust, increase collaboration and communication. And I would like to think, and I do think that everybody out here does want their best. I understand, Mr. Mayor, you have to deal with, competing things, not just the school budget, but also looking at taxpayers, you're looking at the city as a whole, the Board of Education and the superintendent are looking at all of the schools. Dr. Estrella, you and I have spoken from time to time over the years since you became the superintendent. We talked about issues that I've seen, things that I wanted improvements on. We've also talked about equity and inclusion, which I know you and I both, when we met together, have shared that same passion. So trying to look at this adversity in a positive light to try to really establish, as my wife just said, further relationships, further collaboration, because I think there is and there has been a level of distrust. I didn't actually one year, it wasn't this year, I will try to go through the line items on the BOE budget. This was years ago. Some of it is out there, and I would recommend that parents actually educate themselves on prep reports on the budget. Actually, it takes hours to get it. There is information there. There is still some vacancy with that, where it's not exactly. But anyway, I hope everybody works together with the Board of Ed. You have an unpaid, thankless job, but I imagine that the kids thank you for everything you try to do in a very positive way. So I just want to say that the last comment is on the equity and inclusion. Special education is close to my heart. Also, I don't have a personal investment in this, but English language learners. I hope we don't lose sight of both of those issues that have been a budgetary issue of the city for years. And I think you guys are trying to do the best you can. Our salutatorian at Otis Ridge STEAM Academy, I posted on the Norwalk Public, Norwalk Parents for Education salutatorian. She gave her speech. She said she was learning English while doing ponies. She's a salutatorian. That's pretty big and impressive for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Cecilia Rossi. Grace Rossi. Steve Rossi. And David McCarthy.
No other one. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Cecilia Rossi. I live on Regency Drive. I am a Norwalk Public School alum. My parents are Norwalk Public School alums. My mom served on Board of Education for pretty much my entire time as a Norwalk Public School. So I have some sense of stress of budget season, and I have some understanding of the complexity of our city. But I'm here today, I look at this stage, I sang my first solo on this stage in 4th grade at the Love Can Build a Bridge concert, Columbus. And I'm so happy that the elementary arts are restored. Really, it has been a very emotional week, couple of weeks, especially most surprisingly for our children. And this is who we are doing this for in the first place. But to see the uncertainty and the grief that they experience, wondering who's coming back, we are still wondering. I ask you to really consider our children. My daughter came here tonight to speak for herself. When I consider the tax bill I just opened, I'm really hopeful that we have all opened Pandora's box of community involvement to fix these budget issues for good. For now, I ask that you continue to work collaboratively to preserve all student-facing positions. Shuffling administrators in buildings and student deans causing setbacks for our communities and our students. Deans like Stephanie Peckham at Maple Middle School and APs like Scott Santinello at Wolfpit have invested years of heart, soul, and skill into their communities and into our school culture, into our children. Moving them around is short-sighted and harmful. Our students and staff should not experience setbacks because of poor financial planning on behalf of the adults in the room. So let's be really thoughtful about how these funds are being redistributed now. Have school principals been forced to scramble to figure out restored funds without coordinating with their SGCs and PTAs? Are schools being equitably reallocated the roughly 40% of their budgets that were reinstated? How do we know this? We have charts and graphs in these packets, but what were the metrics used to determine those numbers? And why are we putting special ed admins in central office and not restoring special ed admins who were cut from the buildings? I was a special education teacher for many years, and so I know teachers have a lot of opinions, and I know they can be brutally honest, and I know we need to be listening to them. I encourage the board. I encourage the board to move forward with transparency and to keep channels open to listen to the teachers, the building administrators, and the parents, not outsiders, but from the people inside our community and in our buildings. I know teachers have a lot of opinions, they also have a lot of great ideas, and they are more motivated than anyone else to keep our budgets clean. Based on my own interactions and experiences, superintendents behind laptops, unanswered emails about simple questions about how we're keeping our kids safe online, I'm wondering, what do the teachers really think? What professional development trainings have been most enriching and effective for them? What resources are a waste of time and money? How do teachers and building administrators evaluate professional support they're getting from central office? What questions do they have about this budget process and about how money is being spent? And what feedback do they have on how central office has handled this budget process? Please continue to ask teachers and help inform and evaluate the budget process, as well as to evaluate the people in central office and listen to them. I certainly hope we can open up these channels and move forward to ensure that this never happens again. Thank you.
Grace.
My name is Grace Wildfleet and I live at 20 Regency Drive. Last week, I graduated from Wolfett and I'm an incoming sixth grader at Nathan Hale Middle School. I need to talk about how important it is that we keep our wonderful Mr. Santinello in his position as assistant principal at Wolfett. Mr. Santinello is awesome because he walks around our classrooms every morning and greets us. He helps us by talking about problems with us. He helps Miss Erin to run the school as smoothly as possible. As I go to Nathan Hale, I really hope that I see the friendly faces of the teams and administrators who have worked so hard to create a positive culture throughout my middle school. We need to prioritize keeping our current deans and assistant principals in their student-facing positions. Thank you for your progress on the budget so far, and I hope that you change things around so all this is possible. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Steve Colorasi, I live at 27 Plymouth Avenue in Norwalk. My son is a rising sixth grader, soon to be at West Rocks. I've called Norwalk my hometown for over 20 years. I do have some perspective and what I hope to share with the board. For 4 years, I sat where you were. I was chairperson of the Finance Committee of the Board of Education during some of the down economic times in Norwalk. And we had similarly contentious budget meetings, but the source of our contentions was about how money can be spent, not whether money was being fully disclosed. And I know what it's like to be happy. In fact, I had one administrator who would sometimes have me like tax messages. However, the important thing is that what we were able to do was use the state law, not just the letter of the state law, but the spirit of the state law in creating a budget document that lists each line item in the budget, not just general categories, but each specific line item. The amount provided from general funds, the amount provided by grants, and then the total showing any variance from years past. This budget doesn't do that. This budget shows some numbers that how the funds are going to be apportioned with respect to whole positions, but not the actual dollar figure. I think that violates the spirit of the state law. State law also requires that the source of revenue be included in the budget. So many times I've gone through the budget documents, I've yet to see all the sources of revenue. Specifically, rentals, whether they're actually fees paid for the use of facilities or funds need to be paid to custodians out there. State law 10-222 and 10-222A, just state those have to be put into the budget. Once again, I didn't see those items in the budget. When they minimum charge is relevant. The law requires, the public expects that all sorts of revenue to be included in the budget document. I also noticed that on page, I think it was 42 of the initial budget document, there was a listing for ECS funding of like $222,000. Seemed awfully low to me. Now, taking into consideration that there was also a line item provided for Alliance funding, I then went to the State Department of Education for their website. And although we list Alliance funding as 5.3 million, the state was 6.3 million. There's also the non-alliance portion of the ECS funding, which was over $10 million. So if there was a more transparent or compliant process in a budget document that was more like a budget and less like a sales brochure, I think that we would have that.
David McCarthy, 35 Oxford Road. I want to start by thanking Mr. Mayor, State Senator Dove, and Board Ben working through these budget challenges and at least getting us to a place that's much better than where we were 2 years ago. So thank you. I still have a lot of concerns about how the budgeting process is going this year. I urge the board to table the item on your agenda to approve the budget reconciliation. The budget reconciliation proposal I have here, I looked at it the first time about an hour ago. Hopefully you've had more time to look at it than that. But I don't know, maybe you haven't. I think it's very unclear to parents. We're here, we're not here, we're part of the school system. What is being preserved and what is being cut? I'm not even sure that you all know what is being preserved and what is being cut for teachers. I hope you do. But until we get more clarity on that, I really urge you to postpone voting on budget reconciliation, so that the public has an opportunity to understand what the ramifications of this budget would be. I think secondly, as far as what can be fixed in the future, I think page 11 of your presentation sort of sums it up. If you look at prior budget request history, what you see is that the pattern of the DOE requesting somewhere around 9%, and the city approving somewhere around 4 or 5%. And most years that was accompanied with some sort of a vague warning, this things might get cut. But speaking for most parents here, I think we all kind of just didn't see that as a problem. And then this year happened, and it was like a tornado. All of a sudden, there were tons of cuts, and we just didn't see it coming. I didn't participate in the budgeting process early on, but this year really on paper did not look all that much different from prior years. So we're still trying to understand what went wrong here, and we'd like to get some answers on that and a review of why that happened. And lastly, I make one suggestion as to speakers who address you in public meetings. If they work for the Norwalk Public School system, I think they should disclose that. And I think they should also speak last. Those of us who showed up, out of our free time, being here, rush here out of work, we should be able to speak.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Say something.
More people that want to speak. Did you want to speak? Yes. Come to the mic. State your name, you have to.
Hi, my name is Vidal Rivas, 21 High Street. Okay. I am a former Board of Education member for 10 years. And I have sat in the position in the chair that you are now. We did a lot of budgets, cuts, and whatever it was. I am asking the board from my heart to please look at these things very carefully. You cannot cut things that directly impact children. I heard on this microphone, raise the bar in a lot of areas, which I myself have seen that. But when you cut these positions, no one is monitoring the impact. Will we have student achievement in 1 year, 2 years, after these things have affected the children and the community? Can you honestly say, oh, we're gonna still achieve and continue higher than the Board of Education, you are in control of this situation. You need to ask a lot of questions, a lot of whys. Why is this position being recommended for us for a cut? You need to really, I do not believe that this budget right now is ready to be voted on. It needs to be looked at more carefully with a magnifying glass, okay? And as people, if people know me from before, there has to be transparency. There should be more information on this presentation of the budget. So, I believe for a while ago, many nights with the budget, I was sitting out in City Hall, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, my children sleep on the line, but I didn't move until I wanted to know, why is this position for the teacher being cut? Why is music being cut? Why? But you have to find ways of creativity and say, what was this to be combined at a higher level? Okay, because when I was there, there were not from central office, not that I'm saying, but there were ways to be creative as to how the money was going to be distributed. Okay, so again, I thank you for your service, and the thing is, please keep the public informed. I myself got this I don't know, 5 minutes before the meeting started. That's why I didn't get a chance to sign up, because I wanted to see exactly what you were giving the public. That should have been out there before as they were walking. So, anyway, good luck. Please do not vote on this budget. It is not ready. You need to take it.
You repeat what you said, if there's noise, not hear you. Can you repeat it again?
I indicated that public comments were concluded.
It's fine, again. Don't want to. So I apologize, I just sat here from work, so it's the first time. I'll try to keep it short. I think everyone's spoken about transparency.
You are the last person to speak. Go ahead, you got 3 minutes, state your name, your address.
Hi. I'm Anon Sen. I live 17 months here. Connecticut. I don't know why we need to stay where we live. We live here, that's why we're here. If we didn't live here, we wouldn't be here. Always 32nd century. But, yeah, I think to reiterate everyone's comments, we just want some transparency. It seems very rushed and awkward. New funding, there was some new funding allocated. And there's not one kind of and it feels very like there was a huge presence here a few weeks ago. Now it's summer vacation, people are gone. It's very sneaky, like things you're trying to be snuck through. So like I don't know where they are. I'll be honest. This is my first time in this situation. Where are things published that people know what they are? Like as you get more funding and budget changes are made, what is the official source to actually publish something?
you send a little text that alert me on my phone. Be great if everyone knew what that was. So we can kind of, I mean, you guys do, as everyone said, thankless job. It's a difficult job. No one's like, you know, crap on that person, right? It's a hard job, but transparency is all we're asking. And, you know, that's here a few weeks ago, someone's like, oh, this, that, we understand, it's a difficult job. But when it impacts our children, and I have children in all three schools, high school, middle school, elementary school here. We just want to know what's going on. We don't want to be a last minute thing. We don't want to be scrambled. A lot of this feels like a political stuff. It really does. So we just want that transparency. I think that's what everyone wants. I apologize that I'm wasting people's time. But I just showed up on burn. But that's all. We know where it's published. We're reading how to review it as leader. Opinions of Norwalk. We're doing it. I'm like Iowa's Board of Education people. But to be able to give educated and informed opinions, not based on Facebook posts or screenshots or random things. That would be really cool.
Thank you, Board Mary, Board Member. Next item on the agenda is Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening as we gather to present the reconciliation of the FY 25-26 budget. I want to begin by providing my deepest appreciation to families, staff members, and community stakeholders who actively participated throughout this budget process and discussion. Tonight, I'm joined with our CFO, Mr. Linda Asmani, who will be walking us through the reconciliation of the budget, and we will collaborate in the presentation to the board as well as the public. Mr. Asmani, I'm going to put it to you.
All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you, families, for being here. Thank you, members of the Board of Ed, members of the budget staff, and all of the good members that are here, including teachers and business leaders. What I wanted to do is just take some time to walk you through a to walk you through the budget process, where we began, how we got here, what were some of the assumptions, what are some of the drivers that are driving the budget. I've heard comments about where this information be found. I also have information for you as far as where it can be found. But then also talk about it, recently had a recent development with the additional infusion of funding into the Board of Education budget, and I kind of also want to share with you what is the plan. How we plan on using that additional funding. So first of all, I know we've been here long, so I may skip through some of these slides. But our budget process is simple. We typically start with contracts around October. In November, our departments put together the budget request, they do an analysis of what it is that they need, and those are submitted in turn. Around December and January, the superintendent puts together the recommended budget, which is given to the Board of Education at that time. In January, the Board of Education approves that tentative approved budget, and then the Board of Ed budget is reviewed with the city in collaboration with other city departments to determine funding programs. Around January, April, as part of this budget process, we begin working with our students. This is typically the time when we start to find out how much of our requests will be allocated to the Board of Education. At this time, there are some decisions that have some shifting of priorities in how we fund the budget, So that usually happens during the month of January and February. And then after May, once the city has concluded this budget process, then we get to this point where we are now, we refer to as reconciliation, where we have to match what was requested to what was actually approved, because we have to approve a budget on the Board of Ed side that reconciles with what the city has funded. We cannot spend more or appropriate more than what the city is appropriate. So that's kind of what this process has been for the past 6 or 8 weeks each. I know Diana kind of briefly talked about the timeline as well. When we started this process clear back in September. This year, something changed with, what we changed this year was, as you know, we have our Charter Review Commission that actually proposed that in as early as February with a public hearing, it reviewed the entirety of the budget, not just the student priority, but also what occurred against the cities. So we had an initial conversation in September at City Hall on the 3rd floor. In October, we had a community town hall where we met with the parents and then had some review at those meetings. In November, we also had a second community town hall just to kind of talk about what we're anticipating, what the needs of the districts are, and to start getting some input from you as parents. In December, we held a joint meeting at Jefferson Elementary School on December 11th, where we actually had members of the PT, members of the Common Council were also in attendance, and my counterpart, the CFO on the city side, Jerry Smith, was also at that presentation, where we started to lay out what are the drivers that are driving the Board of Ed. So we had that joint conversation at the very beginning, even before the Board of Ed actually approved the budget that was being requested. In January, the budget was approved, and then we began having conversations with the school governance councils. We had a meeting in January where we met with a group of the elementary school governance councils to also provide that same information. This is our budget, these are the drivers and what is driving the budget. In January, after the budget was approved, we started then having additional conversations with the city. We started providing updates to all of our school principals. We started about where we are with the budget and just everyone updated with the budget process. So this process continues up until this, and you have this chart, so I'm not going to belabor the point in here. But just to talk about what are the things that drove, why was this budget request 9.7% to begin with? And so this is something that we shared back in January. The first major item that drives this budget is our contractual review. About 85 to 80% of our budget are teachers and staff and employees. Each year, because of collective bargaining agreements, there are individuals who receive bumps and raises and all those. So that was about 2.8% of the original driver of this budget. A big component of our budget is also health insurance. So when looking at what we were projecting for health insurance this year, that amounted to about 2.5% as a driver. We have received some funding last year for SPED, special education grants. Those grants have expired. Those grants pay for things like some programs. We pay for things like security services. We had gone through a review of our grant programs. There were items that were funded by grants that we discontinued, but there were items that were still needed in our schools. So part of our request at the time was to absorb these in the local budget. So we included those in the budget request. As you've heard, we did have last year, we worked with the city. The city did appropriate to the Board of Ed, similar to what's happening now with the 6 million. Last year, the city appropriated an additional 1.8 million from what the city had received in grants. Those grants did go away, but those needs we still had, and therefore part of our request was to absorb those costs into our local budget. The same way we will be doing this next year, presenting the budget. SPED, specialized needs, continues to be a driver for us. Not only did we see our prevalence rate in our district grow to 17%, but we were also seeing out of district tuition also increase. This is what we pay for outplacement of our students that are not being serviced locally. So that was a driver of our budget. We have a major transportation contract that pays the transport of children to and from school and to and from different school activities. Our budget of transportation is about $10 million. We have 3 major contracts. One of those contracts goes up 5%. Another contract went up 7%, and another contract went up about 3%. These increases are consistent because we use the same transportation services that other districts use. And so this is the contractual obligation that we had to cover, so we included that as part of our drive. And then obviously, as you know, August, we're excited to open our new South Norwalk School. South Norwalk School has been growing in grade level since it started. This summer, this fall, we will be extending to a third grade classroom. And then it'll eventually get to fourth grade and fifth grade. The cost of those incremental third grade teachers to staff that, I think we had 3 teachers and 3 paraeducators, came to the tune of about $500,000. But we also now have a new school that must operate. We need to have electricity, we need to have security services, we need to have custodial services for this new school that we have not had. So these are entirely new costs that did not exist before. Those new costs combined were about just $400 million, so we included those as a driver, and then we also had some increases in our food services. So that's kind of where the 9.7%, how we got to the 9.7%, and this was the budget. The board of Ed approved. Superintendent, want to say anything? I think we can. So where can you find this information? So here's a QR code, and each year we do put together a rather comprehensive budget book. This year's document is 97 pages. It does provide a line item detail for all of our grant funding programs, all of our local funding programs, and it also includes our school lunch book. Within this budget book, we also provide a detailed listing of all of our various grants that we receive from the state. We also include any additional philanthropic dollars that we also receive. The 5-year history includes 3 years of past actual spend, the current year budget, and the budget that's being requested. So all of this information is actually included on a dedicated website, and this QR code is included there that is on our the board website. Included on that website are all of the presentation that we make. I talked about the calendar of the public hearings and the community town halls. All of those presentations are also saved on that website, including links to videos of the meetings that are recorded. This presentation today, once we're done, will also be included. So we started creating this 3 years ago with the collaboration with communications team, but it is a one-stop shop where you can go and find all of the presentations we made and all of the budget documents that they've produced over time. This was referenced by an individual, just to kind of show what historical requests have been on the Board of Ed and the funding levels, and therefore this reconciliation part of the budget is an annual process. So we put forth what we feel that the Board of Education needs to fully operate. But we also understand that there are other constraints on the city side, and the city each year will fund what it can afford for the Board of Education, given all the other needs for resources. So each year, we request more, and we're funded at a level that the city can fund in support of the taxpayers, and we go through this reconciliation process. So this chart kind of shows you historically what the request has been and what the budget has been for us as a district. So we were at this point last year where we were reconciling this budget. Last year, we had put forward an 8.2% request. Last year, we were funded at a 3% level. But as I also mentioned, we were fortunate in that the city did receive some additional funding from the state that were also appropriated to the district. And so we were able to reconcile the budget by making some adjustments. We eliminated positions at the time. We recalculated our insurance costs at the time, but we also were recipient of funding from the city that allowed us to reconcile the budget. And so with that, we were able to get from 8.2% to the 3%, which is the process that we're working on now, is reconciling from the 9.7% to the 4%. So just to show you in terms of context for this year, where this budget started, I talked about we started our initial request towards the beginning of the year, the January timeframe. The requests that came from the department at the time were about 14.2%. We brought that down to 13.3%, and the Board of Ed approved that at 9.7%. What was approved by the city is a 4%. So you can see that from the 9.7% to 4%, there was a $13.2 million difference that we had to adjust and account for. So what are the things that we did to get us there? So we've had so far 3 rounds of central office reductions. The first central office round of reductions was in January. And at the time, that netted 14 positions. We reorganized positions. We eliminated 21 positions in the central office. These positions included positions in the curriculum department. There were positions in the digital learning department. There were positions in finance. There were positions in HR. There were positions in leadership development and operations. So pretty much every single central office department is part of the first round of budget reduction contributed to those reductions, and we were able to eliminate 14 positions at the time. Yes.
I think that there was some confusion around readjustments of positions. And there was a misconception that there was $1 million of new central office positions added. Can you speak a little bit about this to clarify the misunderstanding around that piece?
Sure. So technically what happens is when we reorganize positions, so for example, we had a situation where we had 2 administrative secretaries. Those roles were consolidated in one administrative function. So therefore, we would show on this chart that we eliminated 2 and added 1 for a net of 1 reduction overall. And so I think as we were trying to be transparent in showing what was added and what was taken out, there are some people that had only interpreted one half of that equation in that, well, you added a secretary position, whereas in fact, we eliminated 2 to add 1. And so that's what this chart aims to show us. We eliminated 21 positions, but through reorganizing, we brought in 7. So we went from 21 to 14 positions, and that elimination of 7.
Dollars associated with it.
I can update this chart in different dollars.
Actually,
Yeah,
thank you.
no problem. Yeah, for the statistics, you want it to look like this, so like the position of dollars. So in the second round of position, on the second round of reductions, we had a similar exercise. After the first round, we went to a second round of reduction. We eliminated a net elimination of 6.8 positions for a net elimination of $1.2 million as part of the second round of central office. And then the final round of reduction, as you know, in the most recent agreement, we were to come up with an additional $2 million of central office, either reductions of shifts, so that we can combine that with the $6 million of our state to reinstate some of the program. And so this shows you what was eliminated or what was shifted from the local budget to the grant budget, and this is how we got $2 million worth of reductions. So how is all this spent and where are we now? So as you know, it's been reported, the state is infusing an additional $3 million of Board of Education through the city. The city is also applying $3 million of its from its unspent reserves. And then the Board of Ed was requested to come up with $2 million for a combination of $8 million. How this money is being allocated, the first part of this is as far as the school-based budgets, we're spending $4.5 million of that in restoring 49 positions that were previously eliminated from the school budgets. Included in that is restoring all abandoned streets in elementary schools, and then there was abandoned streets position at the middle schools, at 3 of the middle schools. So we are reinstating 12.5 positions of abandoned streets at all elementary schools and the middle school that have them. And we are also restoring 49 positions back to the school-based budget for a total school restoration of positions of 61.5. And that's how that $8 million is getting distributed. We had also had a need to seek agreement. One of the conversations that this year, because of our increased special education costs, this year, we are also applying some of that to $2 million into our health insurance account to offset the $2 million we're anticipating projected increases in our health insurance. So just by way of perspective, what does this $2 million, what does this $6 million from the state and the city look like for us? Our initial general fund at 4% is about $242 million, which now represents 84% of our budget. Our school lunch fund is about $7.9 million, which represents 2.7. Our grants currently are $31.4 million, and the $6 million that we're receiving now from the state and the city accounts for just about 2% of the overall budget. However, what this means is next year, when we start putting the budget together, we are starting the budget with a $6 million gap that we need to fund, because the $6 million is not part of a 4% that we have received. And so if we go into the next budget process, we will start having those conversations of how we manage it.
Sorry. And there was another slide in the actual budget that had the breakdown to it. I think it might of the previous slide, people got it. There's a slide after that has like the position. Like
Oh, you, that's what you have in your presentation, right?
yeah, I can.
Okay.
And again, I think this is part of that big guarantee is that in there, for elementary school, just to be, I know better, is a half of positions of management. How do you guys allocate those positions in a half position per school, per elementary school, or are some elementary schools get like 2 positions, some get a half position, some get 1 position, how is that?
We can include the listing, the positions that we had, the 12.5 positions, most schools have 1 person that are management for the entire school. I believe there may be 2 schools that share a position, but for the most part, it is restoring balance rates to what it was, where it is now.
That per school each is just divided by 30 schools, not necessarily what each school is getting, it's just an average. That would all be, you should title your slides what they are, this is the whole budget, and the next slide on the budget, and then be related in per school, but it's confusing, but.
So the next slide here shows, now that we have the additional $6 million, so we're gonna combine the $6 million with $252 million for a total appropriation of $248 million, and that's what the board Fed has to spend. It has available to spend for this coming fiscal year. This slide just kind of shows you where the money goes and how the money is spent. The general fund right now accounts for almost 80% salaries and benefits. 23% are other non-salary benefits items. But if you look at the non-salary benefit and items, a big chunk of that is purchase services. This includes things like transportation, security service, custodial service. So those are included in the budget together with supplies and materials that are used at our individual schools. Part of the challenge is when we have to make these reductions, and when, as a district, almost 80% of our funding goes towards personal services. This chart kind of shows you where do these people work. And therefore, as you can see, this about 95% of all of our employees are either in our elementary, high school, and middle schools combined. If you add some of the supervisors that rotate between schools, that is approximately 97% of our positions are working in direct support of schools. So whenever we're challenged with having to make the magnitude of reductions, invariably it will always impact positions in the schools because that's where the positions are. There aren't enough positions out of the schools to continue to have a functioning district to meet the reduction. So come up with $13.2 million of reductions without impacting the school becomes challenging when this is how we're staffed proportionally within the district. And so finally, this is just the reconciliation. There was a comment earlier about some additional funding from Alliance that we're seeing from the state level. When we put our budget together back in January, the state budget had not yet been approved. So there are some additional funding that have come to the district that we now have become aware of. And so we are accounting for those in this reconciliation sheet that you have. There is approximately just under $1 million more in Alliance grant funding that's coming to the district. We are also getting about $800,000 additional funding in excess cost reimbursement. This is a grant that funds special education. And then we also were fortunate to receive some additional funding from our student-based health clinic This is reimbursed by the state government. And so what we're able to do is to apply those additional revenues to offset any deductions we would have otherwise had to. And obviously I have their comment in the box. We do have an additional $6 million that we received from the state that we're also able to apply to this budget. 2 weeks ago, when we met for the meeting that Dr. told, we did post on our website on the agenda. There is a line item breakdown of this budget, the 242 million by line item, by object level. And with the $6 million now that we've received, we're able to reinstate those school-based positions. With that, I'll pass back to the superintendent.
Certainly, one of the things that we've heard is also ECS funding and the $10 million of ECS funding. And I know board members have asked this question as well. Can you talk about how the ECS dollars are appropriated to the city?
Sure. The education cost sharing grant or the Alliance grant, I think a speaker reference of how much we get. Right now, the city of Norwalk wants to do approximately $15 to $16 million of Alliance funding. 10 million of that, the way that the Alliance grant is set up, goes directly to the city of Norwalk. So that goes into the city of Norwalk's general fund to offset property tax revenues. And the district gets about this year close to $6 million. So that's how the Alliance funding is split. Just under $10 million of the regular city, and we get as part of our alliance about $5 to $6 million.
Thank you. I open questions to the board.
Oh. I think it's better just to pull the mic and just it's hard to talk.
So the one mentioned on the data that we mentioned that there's only one origin.
I have a couple of questions. My first question, go back and you mentioned that you had originally 21 positions. And out of that 21, you're down to 14 on those positions. How many positions were vacant?
Page 14.
I will try to go off of memory, the positions, the finance position was not vacant. I think the labor relations, the HR position, that position was a vacant position. I believe all of these other positions. All of these other positions had individuals in them. Alright. So, and members of the cabinet can help if I'm mistaken. But I can speak for finance and HR. One HR position was vacant, finance position had an individual.
All of the curriculum positions were had staff in there for digital learning. Around all of them were with individuals in them. The future learner positions as well. Leadership development had a person in operations, had a person in specialized learning also.
So there may have been around future ready, I think there were 2 that were vacant. We had to fill the nurse position.
The nurses and the nurses were vacant.
Of the 21, I think 3 were vacant and the rest empty.
Okay, so I can see, you know, over the years, I see how we got to this position we're in right now. But what I'm really concerned about, what I really want to hear is what steps will be put in place to prevent this from the future. Like this, think it's really important that you understand that, there's things that happen. There's things that's gonna happen throughout time that's out of our control. However, my biggest concern, no disrespect to anyone, my biggest concern is the future of our children. And to prevent this from happening again, that we be better and well prepared to ensure that this not happening again.
So I think and if I may, part of the challenge is structural, right? So this year, as an example, we are fortunate that we are receiving $6 million, right? $6 million is allowing us to restore many of these positions that we would otherwise not be able to. So the question is to next year, what is our starting point for building the budget? If our starting point is the 4%, and we're giving a percentage on top of that, then we're already beginning the year with a $6 million hole. Right? Now, if the starting point is the 4% plus the 6 million, which is equals to about 6.2%, then I think structurally we're in a better position. But if the board's budget next year is going to be based on the 4% allotment without accounting for the $6 million we just spent, then we're going to be in a similar position again next year. Because structurally, it's not possible, because 6% is 6 million is 2%.
So to your question, Mr. White, I think the work will continue to be having ongoing conversations with the city, particularly with understanding the challenges where we are very grateful to have the $6 million that will help us restore many of our valued educators in the system. Yeah, it also then creates a shortfall as we're planning for the upcoming school year. Like Mr. Esmani said, with the $6 million that we have to take into consideration, plus the contractual obligations and other expenses that from year to year rise, and we have to take into account as we plan the budget for. Does the board have a question? I have a question. When you talk about projections, how do you project what is going to be next year? Because numbers fluctuate. For example, everything this year was more expensive than it was last year, and the percentages were much higher. Like, how do you formulate those projections?
Well, so we do projections, we look at line items, with 80% of our budget being personnel. Most of those are governed by our collective bargaining agreement. As you know, we're in the process of negotiating with our teachers union. This contract expires, so next year we'll be underneath this contract. So based on where we land with that negotiations, then that will determine what the driver is. There are a number of things that don't have control, utilities and those types of things. So those are things that we address once we have information in terms of projections. We've got utility rates. We were fortunate this year in doing the utility rates, we actually saw some savings on the board of it and on the city side. So we both made some adjustments in the past 6 weeks, once after we started the process.
And also adding to that, we also look at healthcare benefits costs that have been continuously rising, and monitoring that we don't control the parameters by which those percentages come in. And we're gonna have to apply those into the overall budget and how it impacts the overall balance for the year.
So first, I wanted to go back to page 19, where it says elementary school band strings orchestra teacher 0.5.
Yes.
Because is this supposed to be the restoration that's fully restoring this for the whole district? Because there's no way that 0.5.
No, that.
Sorry, go ahead. I want to understand it, because I was like, this doesn't seem right, and this doesn't seem to line up with other things that I've seen. So help us out here.
You're absolutely correct. That was the error in the formula. So the teachers plus the band and strings, you combine those, it is 15 combined. And so some of the band teachers, we categorize them as teachers, band and strings. So this doesn't include 12.5 host donations of band and strings. So that was an error in this one.
Okay, so then that means that top line there, where it says 14.5 is really like 2, and it's really 12.5 on the band and strings orchestra line.
No, band and strings and teachers are all cheating on combined, but the band and strings.
So it should just be teachers 15, and that includes the band and string orchestra. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, thank you.
I can send out the detailed position listing of what individual position by school, because we shared that in the unions today. I think.
Yes, I know that that hasn't been part of this yet, but we did see that at some point this afternoon, that's why I was asking, because it didn't quite line up. I wanted to be sure that we are being transparent on page 16 about what it means if there's a CEP next year. I know what that means. I mean, most of us know what that means, but we didn't really talk about it, and I think that we need to be really clear about that for everyone.
Sure. So 2 years. So about two or 3 years ago, it's under, correct me if I'm. Yes, 2 or 3 years ago, it actually started during COVID. During COVID, the district had always offered free and reduced lunches to students that met the criteria for free and reduced lunches. During COVID, the federal government funded free and reduced lunches for all, so you didn't have to have an income requirement to receive a free and reduced lunch. 3 years ago, there was the opportunity for the district, based on our income, citywide income, we became eligible for a program that's called Community Eligibility Provision. What this program allows the continuation of free school lunches for all children, even those that wouldn't otherwise have been eligible to qualify for free and reduced lunches. However, to be part of that program, there is a cost to the district, because the reimbursement rates are lower for the meals that we provide to all students compared to the reimbursement rates if you stay with free and reduced lunch program. So what we're doing this year, part of this proposal, is that to revert back to free and reduced lunches to school children that qualify for free and reduced lunches, and for children that may not qualify for free and reduced lunches, then we would revert back to where they will be responsible for lunches for the students, because we're free and reduced. So by making that adjustment, that does allow the district to spend about $500,000 less in paying for school lunch programs for families for school lunch. Yes.
My question? On the same page 11. Linda. Excuse me, correction, page 16, the same page. Oh, where's that? Would you, just checking, you were saying we had a sizable amount of electricity savings, is that what you were mentioning, that all the city and the town and the board saving?
Correct. We have to
That's
some consultants.
So it's 221,000. My question is about the reductions from the local budget to the grant budget. How could you give us step by step, how were we able to do that at this moment?
Sure. So there are a couple of things that happened. As you know, our grants do not allow us to supply.
Right.
So therefore, if an item is first of all, any items funded by the grants have to be eligible to be funded by that grant. Grants fund specific items and projects. So what we were able to do here is, for grants, for example, here you see that we have a lot of software licensing for curriculum, online curriculum content. And so because we were able to, for some of these positions that were eliminated or on the grandfather side, we were able to shift some of these expenses that were otherwise supported by the local budget into the grant budget. And therefore that allowed us to free up the local budget to pay for some of the positions that we're reinstating now. So that's how we're.
Will those shifts that we have, are those gonna be an issue for next year?
Because it's not coming, I think these are tools that we're using, it wouldn't be a shift because they would be in the grants. Unless for any reason the grants are completed or non-existent. As you know, we're still waiting to see what the impact will be from the federal government allocation of grants. And we're carefully monitoring that to see what the potential implication of our resources and funding will be.
I have 3 questions. One at a time. So, in your presentation, you mentioned that 61.5 positions will not be restored. There was, before there was additional funding came in, possible 80 positions. So, from the 20 that will not be restored, do you have an idea of what those are, or can you provide that? That's my question 1. And then my question would be kind of combined. I know like regarding the school-based budgets, it was the building leaders who made the reductions from where they see fit, depending on the needs of their building. So I know they were the ones that made the decisions for the reductions, and can you confirm that they were the ones who made the choice for the rest of the restore, for them to restore?
Sure. So yes, for the reinstatement of land and streets, that was a district-wide decision, so all of those were given back to the schools, regardless. And so with the balance of what was remaining to be reinstated to the schools, what we looked at was what were their total original reductions to balance the budget initially. And so we looked at what was the proportion of their reduction. For example, if the school's reductions amounted to 5% of the total reductions, they got 5% of the available new money to be distributed. So with that, each principal had the they chose. They prioritized based on the needs of their school, the programming of the schools, what positions to bring back from what they had initially requested. So all of those reinstated positions were decisions made by the school, the building leaders.
Those decisions were well aligned with what we heard from our parents, the community, as vital and important to their schools. So they matched well with what they wanted to see back. I know that some of the schools decided on EAPs. How many positions, what type of positions were saved by the removal of an AP? The removal of AP usually equates to 2 teachers about in terms of the salary. So if they eliminated an AP, they were able either to maintain or bring back 2 additional staff. On average, depending on the other side. Jasmine, I think you said you had some additional questions.
I have one more, just regarding the school leaders making the reductions and also being part of the process to have the position restored. Has there been any feedback from the building leaders about that process, about that process?
So one of the things that some of the building leaders highlighted in some cases was that some of the funding was not suffice to bring back some of the key elements. So for instance, Silvermine would have been the only elementary school that wouldn't have had a school counselor. And we made further reductions in other areas to make sure that Silvermine would have a counselor like other elementary schools across the district. Similarly, with Wolfkin, There was a decision that was critical, that with the allotment that was provided, they couldn't fully fund. So we found additional resources to ensure that, they could have a decision that was critical. It was also another social emotional support decision that was assistance. Am I missing anyone, Mr. Osman?
No, I think you've covered it.
Can I just, this may be too detailed a question, it may be like a summary answer. I'm just thinking, there's been a lot of moving pieces in this past week, and I know we've all felt the whiplash. One of those has been in our discussions with our union leaders. And we heard earlier that there were some suggestions from the unions about potential cuts or restatements that did not necessarily cohere with some of the suggestions from the district. I want to give a quick summary of what some of the disparities were, particularly with regard to specialized education.
So, we had two conversations with, union leadership, where they presented a proposal, we had, came back and, reviewed their proposal as well as, spoke to, members of the board around these elements. One of the things that came up was obviously the reinstatement of parent strengths, which is something that was already part of our process, as well as bringing forward additional NFP and NFT members, which was something that was highly prioritized. One of the other pieces I think was mentioned earlier around special education supervisors, which are central office positions. We reduced those from 7 to 3. Now we have 5 providers total that will be supporting the schools. All the work that we do in central office is in service of students in our schools. And we, throughout the scope of the past several years, made significant reductions. But when we made those reductions, we infused those responsibilities within the other portfolios of people's work. And right now, most departments have individuals engaging in multiple responsibilities. Some examples is Mr. Asmani oversees not only the finance department, but also the human resources department. Sandra, they always took over, if you recall, when we eliminated, we actually eliminated, business and operations when Dr. McBride combined those two departments. So now we have Sandra overseeing the data and analytics as well as facilities and operations combined. And several of the central office positions now have multiple overlay responsibilities across departments because we don't have the personnel to do the work, despite the efficiency study that we conducted, I believe, in 2022, stating that we were understaffed in a number of areas. We continue to be understaffed. So, for instance, even in transportation, if anything were to happen to the one person doing that work, we really don't have backup structure to support those processes that are critical, as well as safety.
Questions from the audience?
No, we're not. This is the conversation with the board. Question?
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Estrella, and thank you, Colin, for that question, because I did want to get to the topic of central office, which I know is not a very popular topic. If my math is correct here, slides 14, 15, and 16, there have been 24 positions, maybe 23, because one of them was vacant, cut since January. And I just think it should be explained to the public, like what the ramifications of that could be. You mentioned that, all year we've been operating with only 1% in transportation, 1% in safety and security. I want the public to be aware that with these deep cuts, There will be impacts on the level of service that you are receiving from central office in the way that the principals are able to be supported by central office and the schools overall. So are you allowed to speak to what the impacts could be in our schools?
So, for instance, in terms of the curriculum and instruction department, Mr. Bennington, I don't see, do you want to come out and majority per minute? So there's been a number of reductions, the person that supported the overarching scope of work across the district around curriculum instruction, that role was eliminated. We then restructured it to have two humanities positions to staff. We were only able to maintain one of those positions. We were keeping one vacant because we couldn't find a second. And these individuals work hand in hand with school leaders and the staff to ensure that curriculum implementation is strong, smooth, and easily throughout the system. We are also restructuring how we're engaging in our special education services across the organization, as well as our work on cycles of improvement that have led to a lot of the positive achievement in collaboration with teacher leaders, teachers in the classroom, principals, assistant principals, and other personnel. So we are reframing how we are engaging in the work, because, but in doing that, we are adding additional responsibilities to the new positions created in order for us to continue to maintain the services that we've set forward. As you know, throughout the school for the past few years, we've engaged in continuous reductions in central office, and particularly when we talk about human resources and we look at the peak seasons, we constantly hear from our school leaders that the return time is not as efficient as they want it to be, but part of the challenges is we don't have enough personnel in those roles. When this Kimberly took over the HR director role, her position wasn't backfilled, so she's playing double duty in many instances. And this is just a few of the examples. Mr. Pennington, in your department, are you missing anything that you want to put on?
I think another role that was eliminated was one of the assistant education administrators for multilingual learners. And so
It's hard to hear that.
I was just saying that I think one of the other roles that you mentioned was the assistant education administrator for multilingual learners. And so they have been supporting schools in terms of class links testing, and he eliminated one of those roles. And so instead of having 3 people supporting us, we now have 2.
So all of that to say that all of the departments play a critical role in functions and supports within the school. So we are reframing, rethinking how we're doing this work, because we're very limited in terms of personnel that we have. And it's going to be a challenge to continue to fulfill the level of support that we've been so successful with over the course of the past 3 years.
It's also the health issue too, because you have someone that's only one in safety, one in transportation. If someone gets sick long term, you have no one to fill a position. If they want to take a vacation, no one is there to fill that position. So those are definitely, other discussions that we have to have too. So it's a very difficult position.
Those are some of the challenges we've had this year that we've experienced because of some of the shortfalls in some of the positions. Any other questions?
Yes, so I know this is a revised budget, and it's not on here.
Can you?
I know this is a revised budget and it's not on here. However, I would like to know how much we're spending on consulting. And are we still using consultants?
So as part of a number of our grants, part of the expectation is that we work with consultants in providing services in terms of schools and developing individuals. So yes, we still have consultants like TNTP that is helping us with the implementation of any curriculum materials in schools, working hand in hand with the principals alongside the teams to support the work. And Ms. Paolis, can you mind coming on and highlighting any of the others that we're supporting through our grants?
Those are.
Can you also clarify that they are requirements of? That's what I took in, that the grant setting expectation, that part of the work is in professional supporting and developing. But
I mean, I hear what you're saying. However, when it comes to you're saying that they're working closely with the principals. I mean, I think the principals are at this point where, through development that, whatever we're being taught and learned at this point, because of where we're at financially, I think that's something that we really need to look at. Something that to take into consideration as far as those funds like the sun.
and we haven't voted on that. So we haven't done those and we've made reductions as well. We have to still keep those in accordance to the stipulations of the grant. Ms. Williams, you like to?
Sure, so. Can I just follow up or not? Those are grant funded.
They're funded.
That is separate from.
The operating channel.
So we do have consultants. They are required for certain grants. The funding for those is coming from the grant.
From the grant.
Right, so we have 4 current contracts that are within the grants. We actually have made some reductions to meet the $2 million mark that we then prioritize which contracts we're actually going to move forward with for the next year. One big one is TNT, which is helping us with the literacy, the implementation of the literacy and curriculum from the middle schools and the high schools. Another one is the work that we have done is a small portion of the work that we have done with Dr. Fergus in terms of the equity audits that we have done. Another one is a fall course, leading with hearts and minds, which is something that the schools have also taken advantage of. Also written with the equity focus. And the other one that we have on there is, let me see one, for next year. Oh, I understand. Moments of mindfulness is the other one. I said Dr. Fergus. Dr. Clemens is, not in next year's grant, Dr. So everyone is looking with hearts and mind and therefore MBK MSK.
Right, and that particular work is really supporting students and working with students directly. And I also want to clarify that the supports not only for school leaders, they also work with our coaches and they work within the schools to support our teachers in the implementation of this work as well.
So we've made a lot of progress in the district, things like graduation rates and the success of our students. Can you tell me, with the reductions that are being proposed, what is the reasonable expectation that the district will continue with the improvements and the achievements that we've seen?
I think one of the things that we discussed with our cabinet is thinking about how this reorganization based on the reduction will impact the supports provided to schools and what the school leaders in conjunction with their teams are able to do. So we're in the process of reassessing that and looking at, because now the portfolio of certain different individuals throughout the organization has been amplified, how effectively we can move the work forward the way we have in the past, because it's going to be a challenge. And I don't know, I think Ashley had a question.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a question as much as a statement, and I very much understand the importance of all the roles in central office. And I would not be in favor of removing cabinet members. I understand the breadth of the work that they do and that they are even adding more to their portfolios as other positions are cut. I would be remiss though if I didn't say that I still believe that we need more than 3 special ed administrator roles. I don't think we're getting back to 7. It's just feasibly, but I think that 1 or 2 more would really serve our special education population in a way that's very important.
I think that the structure that Mrs. Huntington has developed alongside the special ed leaders in the district will support the work. And I think we need to give an opportunity for us to monitor that, the progress of that work, reassess, and then further discuss ways in which we can then further modify, given the constraints that we have.
I have another question.
Do we have any concern with class size, maybe within the state mandates of teacher can handle the number and also to make sure that it's a productive class environment?
Class size are governed by contractual guidelines, and we when we go through the process of determining how many and it's I'm gonna use the word people we need, our educators we need to do the work. We are governed by those class size limitations, and we make sure that we are applying to them.
I'm back. We have 61 FTEs that they're.
We can hear you.
Okay. 61 FTEs that have been reinstated, and I'm thinking about the 19 that have not been reinstated. And are we there yet? Can we still keep looking? Is there something else that we can uncover to meet that group?
We've been applying to grants to see if we could get additional resources. We won't hear back from those grants yet. So at this time, I don't think that we have, unless we get a grant, one of the grants that we've been applying for. I think there's no additional resources right now for us to bring in 19 FTEs because it's a significant amount. The questions from the board? No further questions from the board. That concludes the superintendent presentation on the Hawaii operating by 25-26 operating budget.
All right, so moving forward on the agenda, we have consent votes, especially now on the budget. Any comments, concerns? Am I moving forward with asking?
I had a change in the minutes, for one of the, I believe was the last meeting. Simple change, he just said that the meeting was adjourned by Norma Justin Becker. So, obviously that's right.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so on the minutes, if we can get a motion to approve the minutes with that one change that Nora did not adjourn the meeting. Janine, seconded by Mary Ellen, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. All right, so now the approval of the FY 26 operating budget reconciliation. Of course, it's going to be combined with the approval of personnel because depending on how we go, personnel is included in there. Any discussion, motions?
Wait. Why are we gonna meet for tomorrow? Is it on the agenda?
Question I have.
Give us a moment.
Yes. It seems that we might need some more time examining this. I make a motion that we table this on further examination of them line by line as we with the hope that we will all there and here understand exactly what's in it and make it truly get into the vote on what will happen.
Okay, so motion to table, approval of personnel and approval of FY26 operating budget reconciliation. Table, all in favor?
Aye.
What's the next meeting on Fairfax Square? You can have the public. Next is everything else.
Approval of 25-26 district goals. Approval of memorandum of understanding the liability insurance and general service fund. Approval to execute 2025-26 food service management company contract renewal amendment with Chartwells. Approval of FY25 year-end transfer temporary waiver request. And approval of selection of 6-12 ELA instructional materials. Any questions before we move forward on this?
Just one comment about ELA instructional materials. I had a chance to listen to a detailed presentation on choices that were made in middle school and high school, and they sound like a really very dynamic reading program for middle and high school. So I think that's a great thing.
Thank you, Marianne. So motion to approve all of these together? Howard, seconded by Karen, all in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. Thank you, that's unanimous.
Diana, can we just go back to the discussion of tabling? So I'm not in favor of not tabling, we're tabling, but. So I just want to be clear, we've gotten sort of two schools of thought from us and from emails, and many emails we've gotten. Some asking why rush, like why tomorrow night? And also though the school thought that the longer we wait, there are teachers who are waiting to know for sure, and other educators who are waiting to know where they stand. And so just as we're deciding when that vote is, I just want everyone to know, like, these are the things that we are balancing as we decide and have had discussions about when that meeting is going to occur and how that meeting is going to occur. Like, we're trying to find the balance between, we don't want to rush and we want these educators to know their job procedure. So just kind of know and we're really trying. This has been quite a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And a lot has been changing at the last minute, and it's not any one individual or one group's fault. This is just how it has weirdly occurred in the last couple of weeks. But so as we are figuring that out and getting information out about meetings, these are the kinds of things that we're considering. So as we make a decision about when we are tabling this until whether we are staying tomorrow night or making a change, we are considering both of those and trying to find the balance. Also,
right away, here and make it public right away. It was not made public that there was a meeting tomorrow, we all had to figure it out on our own.
again, we are really trying.
I know.
We are really trying. We have a holiday later this week, which is limiting our options of days as well. Like, we want everyone out on the green for Juneteenth.
So next item on the agenda, we May 2025 financial report.
We'll make it very public when.
We will make it public the same way you've communicated it, unfortunately, well, then maybe you can email us other ideas, because we don't know. We've tried different methods and we have different ways of communicating. If there is a way that we are missing, please email us and let us know. All right. Thank you.
So part of the financial report I shared, I gave an update is on the budget, it's not a report, so but I do want to share that yesterday I did sit down, my team, CBCFO, Jared Schmidt, budget director. We did sit down and we did review our projections for this fiscal year end. And so he has the document and the items that are part of this budget reconciliation, and talked about the internal the health stuff, the health insurance fund, and also the internal service fund that you just so that is really just to give you an update of who we are, closing out the year, coordinating our yearly close, with the other finance policies.
Thank you, Linda. Any committee representative reports?
I will give a quick library liaison report. The library summer calendar looks amazing at both branches, the main branch and Sono branch. I can get that to the communications team to share with everyone. Summer reading log has also been sent out. So if you have the opportunity to check out the summer calendar, the library has a programming just about every day of the week. And additionally, the kickoff for summer reading at the library will be Saturday at 3 p.m. at the main branch and tie-dyeing t-shirt. The kids can come in any day, the blog sheets can start earning their prizes in the library. Summer reading.
Yes, so I just want to also acknowledge the athletic students going in high school today. Their new head basketball coach Terrence Fuller. So I just want to give them a congratulations.
Okay, so most committee meetings will have summer break. The only committee meeting, or committee that will continue through the summer is the policy committee, and that's only because we are currently always making changes to the state statutes. So ours will be coming up soon. Next item on the agenda is board member announcements. This is the time where a board member can share anything to the community, and the community gets to know us on the more personal level. Anything anybody wants to share?
Okay, I have two grandchildren, and one of them is 2 years old. She and her family are going to be moving to LA next week, and I'm going to be pretty sad about having a long distance relationship with that two-year-old. Her name is Eden.
So I want to remind everyone that we have a Juneteenth celebration tomorrow on the Green at 4 o'clock. Juneteenth. Thursday.
Oh.
Yeah, Juneteenth tomorrow, Juneteenth, there's this storytelling at the library at 6:30, and that's at the Belmont Island location. And then on the 20th to the 22nd, there is a Juneteenth fundraiser carnival, which will take place at Veterans Park. And we're looking forward to that and hoping to see everybody there.
All right, if no more, Aaron.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to. First of all, thank you for everyone who came out, not only tonight, but the previous meeting. I can assure you that my conversations with Dr. Estrella and others, that your voice will be heard. And I appreciate again that you shared that voice with us. And this is a way to continue the dialogue, making sure that government responds accordingly. Also, this past couple of weeks, I've had the privilege of attending a total of 6 middle school promotions and 4 high school graduations. And it's really quite a sight and really inspiring to see all the young people moving on and moving up. And you take a look at it, the colleges that it's a lot of our young people from high school, I think you'd be very impressed. So again, thank you to the Norwalk Board of Education, thank you to Norwalk Public Schools, and most importantly, thank you to our teachers who helped make that happen.
All right, thank you, everyone. And with that being said, I'd like a motion to adjourn. Ashley, seconded by Marielle. Time is now 8:20.